Welcome to the Crazy Cool Family Podcast with Don and Suzanne Manning. Parents, what if we could give you the power to transform your family into something absolutely amazing?
A family where everyone is healthy, gets along, loves Jesus, and has great purpose in life.
Hey, let us flip your thinking to unlock the power God has given you to create your own Crazy Cool family.
Hello, Crazy Cool parents. This is Madeline here, and I hijacked my mom. We've got two babies sleeping.
Kinda.
The dog is outside. The kids are at school and work, and so I hijacked my mom and decided to ask her some questions that, for me personally as a young mom, I am asking now, but I also know that a lot of you young moms out there are also asking some of these questions. So we're going to get it raw. I have the questions written on a piece of paper, and she has not even seen them.
Which is rough for me because I'm Miss Internal Processor. So if she throws something at me and I pause for a long time, it's my slow, tired, old brain working.
So I'm just going to jump right into it, ask some questions, and get some wisdom for someone who has been parenting for 30 years, right at 30 years in a few days. So ready for this, Mom?
I'm ready. So excited.
Okay. My first question for you is, how do you intentionally find purpose in your life, specifically when you're at home with little kids all the time? Where do you find your purpose? How do you find it? And how do you keep finding it every day when the routine is so the same?
Yes, and the tasks get mundane, and it feels like, I call it the season that you're in, Madeline, the wiping season, where you're wiping their nose and the counters and the floors and their bottoms all the time. Super hard to find.
7 poops. A couple days ago, we had 7 poops in one day. It was quite true. It did. Not us. Not Mom.
How many
not
we
me.
all had. Yeah, Madeline and Larry were competing. I changed the last one. I've changed 3. I've changed 3. Okay, so that is such a good question. And I think that if moms could grasp hold of that purpose that they have in this season of littles when they're at home, then it will feed that tank of, this is worth it and I'm glad I'm doing it. And it will also fight the enemy who is constantly there telling us, I'm so much better than this. I'm wasting my life away. The world is out there and I'm just stuck in this house and these 4 walls and these small people that desperately need my attention. And so if I can just maybe open your eyes up a little bit, that we as moms, we get to mold and shape very specific individuals handpicked by God, given to us in this season of time, in this history, in this line of history, to impact the kingdom. And that's what we're doing. And that's where I found my purpose, is that if I could produce solid, strong individuals that had an identity that was based and grounded in Christ, that could go out and confidently impact the world for Christ, that they could bring his life, light, and love into every environment where they went. I mean, parents, have you ever been around a person that when you're around them, you just feel peace, or you feel hope, or you feel joy? That's what we get to do. We get to build that individual that goes in and makes an impact on the environment that they walk into.
That's cool.
And so we do that as we're wiping their bottom and we're singing them a little song, 7 poops today, I got to change, whatever that is, you bring joy into it, or you come at your tasks with strength and with purpose, perseverance, I guess. And you're showing your children all of those things and Madeline is a master at this. She brings joy and fun into absolutely everything. She's living with us for just this short little season while they're putting offers on houses in Fayetteville, Arkansas. And she's just always got the most ridiculous song on her lips, that she's singing. And she's like me, and we can't carry a tune to save our lives. And it's just like not the best singing, but it's joyful and it's fun and it's laughter. So
That's so good. And that kind of leads me to the next question. I'm going to kind of get inside your brain for a minute. How do you find joy? So when you're doing the dishes and you're driving someone, like mom will drive pick a kid up from school, drive them 20 minutes across town, come back and pick up the other kid from school and drive them 20 minutes back across town to the exact same location, only to go pick them up 1 hour later at the same spot, you know? And so, I mean, like she spends her whole, from like 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. in the car, it feels like. Or the dishwasher's been broken in our house the last week. And so she's been hand washing so dishes for all 20 people that come in and out of this house on a regular basis. Or the dog has been living inside because it hates outside because it's too hot. And so there's dog hair everywhere. So just like the monotonous tasks you're doing every single day, what are some of your thought processes, like whether good or bad, that you're thinking? And what are some of the bad ones that you're reworking to good? Because you're still going to have to do the dishes for a while. You're still going to have to drop kids off places until we can get the rest of us with licenses. And so what are how are you reworking your thoughts?
So the taking the kids to and from, that has been, it feels like a lifetime, because you guys all were pretty active. You all had your sports and your activities. And so that was something that I had to flip my thinking from a long time ago. And so I'm very solid in that right now. So I just don't, as our kids get older and as they go off to school, they're 8 hours and then they go on to their activities, we spend less and less time with them. And so to me, that time in the car is the most valuable time. Like, it's one of the highlights of my day. I look forward to going and picking them up from school and hearing about their day and what happened. It's my opportunity to connect with them and to wash off the world, the experiences that they've had when they've been away from me. And it's
and to like flip some of their thinking, get inside their brains and change some thought patterns.
For sure. Like McCade has been, trying out for football, and every time he got in the car, he would complain about it. Like, there's these receivers and there's taller than me, or they're whatever it is. And so this is when I think that we get to parent in the car at such an incredible level, because they're a captive audience.
Yeah.
And they don't have anything else that's really distracting them. And especially if it's one-on-one, that's my favorite when I get to go. So to me, it's almost like I look forward to it as a little date. And so I don't mind picking one kid up from school, bringing them home, driving them 20 minutes, and then we're coming back and doing the same thing again, because it's each kid individual.
Yeah.
And so that's my thoughts on that as parents. I know that right now, when you have small children and they're all in the car together, it's not usually peaceful. It's usually chaotic because they're all fighting. And so just hijack that time and just, capitalize on it with, okay, somebody tell me their favorite, food that they like to eat, or their, whatever that is. Just create a conversation stream with them to get them talking.
So last night I was picking up the boys and
I was so grateful that you did, but I was a little bit sad.
Yeah, and I was with Larry, and so I did not have this perspective, and so I realized about halfway through the drive that they're playing on their phones. I think they're playing a game together or whatever, and I realized that I was missing the moment that I could have with them, and so we turned on Taylor Swift and we started singing together or whatever.
So funny.
But it was easier to just talk to Larry, not entertain them, even though they are in high school and middle school. It was easier for them to be on their electronics. So how do I choose the harder one when it's easier to just say, yeah, play with your games, play on your electronics, entertain yourselves. I'm just going to turn up my music and have a moment in my own head for a second.
And so while that is okay, I just want to give you permission as parents. Sometimes that might be your only quiet moment, because they're all strapped in their car seats and they're not making messes. And so you might just want to have a moment, and that's fine too. But for me, it was just wanting to connect with them, wanting to just curious about what they just experienced. Like, tell me, like Madeline picked them up from Hub Camp, it's our church's youth, and I wanted to know who they met and who they talked to and what new people. Maddox is in charge of the new people, so how many new people were there? Was it chaotic? Was it peaceful or whatever? And so I just want to know what's going on in their lives. And so as parents, that's how you get the motivation to not want to tune out and turn your music on and give everybody their technology, is you want to connect with them on what's going on in their lives after they've been away from you for a while.
Yeah, that's good.
So
then back to the dishes. There's no children in the dishes. There's no conversation in the dishes. There's just a bunch of dirty, caked on food dishes. So how do you rework your thoughts in those moments?
That's so good. And so for me, I had to identify things that satisfied me and go after those things. And so to me, it's very satisfying to have a sink full of dishes that are dirty, and then there be a counter full of clean dishes, and then to dry them and put them all away, and to look up and there are no dishes. And so I didn't love the idea of having to do a million dishes, but I loved the satisfaction that it brought when the project was done. And so I just figured out ways that I would found satisfaction. Like I used to, when I first got married, is I needed to have all the trash emptied on the night before, not the night before Christmas or the night before the trash was picked up, whichever. And so, or else like if I did the laundry, all the laundry in the whole house had to be done. And that standard became a little bit ridiculous. And so I had to find a different way for my satisfaction to be met. And so that's one of the drivers that I would do, is to figure out what satisfies you, what pleases you, what makes you, if it's a situation, then filter through and find out, okay, what is it that's going to make me satisfied or pleased, or I mean, maybe even happy at the end of it, and then look toward that as the goal, not the project itself. In
my own personal way of doing things, I'm not orderly by nature. And so whenever it comes time to clean my house or get things in order, I have to entertain myself because I get bored. And so if you come into my house, you'd find loud music playing and me just like working, because it's not about, for me, the motivator is not this, what's the satisfying goal? Cause I'm like, I could technically live in a mess. Like I could. It's more of like, how am I going to get there? Am I going to have fun doing it? Am I going to create fun doing it? And so if I can play loud music and dance and sing and worship or listen to a fun podcast while I'm doing the dishes, then that gets me there. And so I guess that's just different people have different motivators, or mom's is to be satisfied with the end product, and mine is to like have
enjoy
fun doing
it while you're doing it. And so many times, just to mesh those two together, I wanted the end product done, and I had 7 kids that continued to create the mess. And so I think Madeline probably got that idea, is I would either set the timer or we would play a song. Okay, the kitchen needs to be cleaned up by the time this song is over, or she would always say this phrase. She would say, if all of us work for 5 minutes, that is, and she would point us off 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. That would be 30 minutes of work. If all of us work and you're only working for 5.
And you're only working for 5 minutes. Or if all of us can clean the house for 1 hour, that's 7 hours of work. Everyone get going. And we were always like, yeah. And then we started catching on, and we were like, Mom.
Yeah, and so recruit help by all means. Like Madeline had somebody unload the dishwasher the other night. She goes, Mom, guess what? I had the boys unload the dishwasher on the dishwasher's maiden voyage on his first
new dishwasher. Yeah. Okay. Next question is, how do you make plans for your children and your life, but also remain flexible? Because it feels like we make plans. We're like, okay, today we're going to go do blank, go to Walmart and all buy a treat or do this or that. And then this baby misses a nap, or this baby doesn't sleep at all. And then this kid does this or whatever. It feels like every day there are plans in place, and every day the plans get rearranged, shifted, or just crossed off, and we just all stay home. And so how do you make plans and get excited about the plans, but also remain flexible when the plans don't happen? As they don't happen.
Right. Oh, that's so good. I mean, I just think anybody with small children, flexibility has to be part of it, because the child's growing in teeth, or the child's hungry, or the child needs a nap, or the child didn't sleep good that night. And so I think initially coming into a life of a whole bunch of kids, I had pretty much an idea and a structure of what I wanted. But as each child came along, more and more of that ideal died. And so I think that I have now grown flexibility. And so what I would advise is that by all means, lay out your plans. You need to have a plan. You won't even want to get out of bed in the morning if you're like, I have no idea what we're going to do today. It's just going to be a mishmash of a day. So have a plan and work toward that plan and that goal, but then just hold it loosely, knowing that something might come up, whatever that is, plans may get canceled. And so I just encourage you that when that happens, if you've got a child that has come to this world and they are a planner, I mean, Molly was my planner, and she would be just distraught if the plans didn't, pan out like we had set up to. And so you just have to be in communication with even those children. Okay, we're going to do this, and this today. That's our goal, and that's what I want to do, and we want to make it happen. But I'm going to hold it loosely, and I want you to hold it loosely too, just in case it doesn't work. And then just the younger your children are, the looser your plans might need to be.
Yeah.
And then know that the older they get, especially once they're in school, those are pretty solid plans. I mean, the world is making those for them. And so it's hard to be flexible with that.
Yeah.
But the more flexible you can be, the more peaceful your life will be. Because if you get bent out of shape because you didn't get to run by the cleaners because the baby puked or whatever that is, life is going to be hard.
Yeah. That's good. Okay, I got 2 more questions. Can you do 2 more questions?
Yeah, I think I can do 2 more.
Okay. How do you have time to know, like really know your kids, also your husband, and also maintain your house? Like, how do you, especially when there's a lot of them and the more that come, I feel like one thing that my mom does really well is she'll always be saying, blah, 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 has this going on in their head right now, da, 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 and she'll just rattle off, like, for example, she used McCade and football and that process in his mind and what's happening in his world. And I'm like, when did you have time to find that out? Like, you're doing a million things. I'm like, I have 1 baby and 1 husband, and I'm like, that's a lot for my world to know what's going on in their worlds. But she's doing that with all of her kids and her grandkids and her kids' spouses and all of that kind of stuff while maintaining a house and while also loving and taking care of your husband. And so how do you balance it? What's your secret? What are your tricks?
So I think you're being very generous, because I would say that they all have 1/7 or 1/9 or 1/11. Is that how many people are in our family now? And so it's not quite at the high standard that you say that it is, but there is a secret to it. And I think that I love it that you asked that, because the secret is to live in the moment with that person. And so when you are there with them, with what they are experiencing right then and there, then you get credit for that. They feel known because you're with them right then and there. And I'm terrible about not paying attention to the poor Mackenzies in, College Station and Michael's in Arkansas. And I maybe send a text flare out to them every once in a while. But Madeline and I have had some great conversation because we're face to face. And so I just tend to be whoever's in front of me, that's who gets my attention and my full attention usually.
That's good.
So yeah, I was just thinking along the way, it's probably another thing. So I'll have, like, the kitchen is our heartbeat. And so much happens in the kitchen. And so I just picture everybody sitting around at the bar stools or whatever, and I'm doing the things around the house. I'm getting stuff done while we're talking, and while they're talking, while I'm asking questions, or while they're sharing what's going on. And so it's kind of a little bit of both, and then when you guys were little, I didn't do it very often, because I'm more of an introvert and I really appreciated my time alone, but I love my one-on-one time. And so I remember us like grabbing a kid and going somewhere, or Christmas time going and buying presents with, each one of you, or going on like a coffee date or whatever that is, like that.
Or you would come sit at the end of our bed. I remember that. And I think we've talked about that before, but at the end of a day, she would just make her rounds into all of our rooms and just sit at the end of our bed. We were either getting ready for bed or doing our homework or whatever, and she would just come, and maybe it was 10 minutes, but that was pretty much all we needed. We would talk the whole time, didn't ask her any questions, just give her a download of our world. And so I guess now you're probably doing that, driving to and from with the boys.
Right. And so once you started driving, that's when the 10-minute bedtime thing, that's when I would start even doing that as y'all were older or whatever, and not connecting with you once you started driving. That I for sure remember doing that. But even when you're little, I kind of cheated a little bit because I homeschooled for a long time. So I just had the minutes. I had the quantity of time. And so the quality of time wasn't quite as important because the minutes counted. And so now, though, as everybody's in different directions, it's very concentrated on the quality of time.
That's great. Kind of a branch off of that question, just because I'm curious. So with each kid, and you're having intentional time with them, you also have an ability to understand them and understand their brain and their world and their thoughts and their emotions, partially because of the way God made you to be. But if there is a practical secret on someone who maybe has a strong-willed kid, or a kid who doesn't want to talk, or a kid who's emotional and they're not, or a kid who is not emotional and they are, what is your secret on, like, how do you understand your child in front of you? And what would you give these mamas and daddies help to, like, understand how to understand their kid? And that's what I need help with that, because I'm very much a thinker, not emotional, and my child is a roller coaster of emotions. And so I'm like, stop crying about everything, just think it through. And so how do I personally understand my baby And how do you understand your 2-year-old and 3-year-old and 4-year-old and 15-year-old?
Yeah. So the first thing is so good, Madeline. The first thing I would do is I would take captive the thoughts that he's so different or she's so different or I don't understand her or I don't get her. I talked to a family one time and they have this daughter who's just delightful, but she's artistic and she's talented in a bunch of areas, but they're all athletic. And so she could care less. She's like me. She didn't want to be outside. She doesn't want to sweat. She want to do this stuff. And they're like, we're having a hard time connecting with her. And so just to flip your thinking and just realize, oh, this child has been given to me as a gift to understand a part of my personality or my character that I don't understand.
Or my spouse's.
Or my spouse's.
Or the character of God.
Yes. And then it'll even be siblings with each other too. It's like, oh my goodness, like Truett will be a gift to you to help you even understand your next child as you've watched him grow. And so I just encourage you to see them as this incredible opportunity to learn a whole new way. Because why is it that we think that when people are like us that it's best? Oh, I get you. You're like me. Like we want to find common ground. And so I just want to encourage you, find uncommon ground and press in and learn something new about yourself and learn something new about that child. That's fascinating. And then I had there was 2 thoughts. I knew I should have written them down. So understand your child and embrace your child and know that you want to go after that differences. Differences are good. Differences are better. They draw you together. And then let them be themselves. I think that's where if you have it and I did it wrong Macy was my first emotional one. Molly was a feeler, but she just logistically had it figured out. And then Madeline was just this little soldier. I can do it. But Macy was my emotional one. And I just did not handle it well. I let her emotions push my buttons and it created the emotional person in me. And I didn't embrace it well. And then God was gracious enough to give me Maddox, who is a male emotional person, and I was able to do it completely different because I was able to accept him and encourage him and allow him to be who God created him to be. And not only that, but he even resisted it. Like, I'm a dude, I'm not supposed to be emotional. And I was even able to give him permission to know, God's got something great for you through these emotions. And he's got a plan for you to use this. He's given you empathy at a super high level.
Yeah.
I remembered it. So I knew I would. And then, equip yourself, with the love languages. Figure out what love language your kid is. Figure out if your kid's an internal or external processor and what you are. Just go through and do some of those personality tests. The Enneagrams are a big thing right now. It's kind of hard to label a kid because a kid represents all of them, just like they kind of represent all the love languages because they want to be loved in all ways and their whole... But just start paying attention to those things, not so that you're labeling them, but so that you're understanding them. Yeah. Like, it was huge when I realized that I'm an internal processor and Michael is an internal processor and Madeline's an internal processor. And so everybody else is external. Yeah. And so they would all talk and we would all just sit there, and not say anything. And we realized, okay, that's how we need to interact with them. We need to respond so that they can think about it for a while, give them a question. And so just study your kid, learn your kid. And that goes back to that very first question. How do you make them feel special? Yeah. You study them, you pay attention, you're curious about them, you want to understand them, you ask them questions like your emotional kid. Like, Truett doesn't talk yet, but buddy, what's going on in your head? What are you thinking right now? You know, or giving him words I understand that I took your toy away and you're unhappy about it, but it's time to, just give them words. Yeah. And let them give you words.
That's good. In the sweet balance, I like what you said about understanding them but not putting them in a box, because I feel like they change all the time. It's like, oh, yes. Right, you're emotional, or I could have, just because you threw this, well, you might just be a baby. You might be emotional because you're 9 months old, yes. And so that you're crying because you're tired, not because you're emotional. So just like being like understanding them, being willing to understand them, trying to understand them, but also not putting them in the box of like, you are for sure a feeler 100%. Just like, I'm just going to continue to understand you more and more as I learn you and know you and pursue you and ask you questions and all of that kind of stuff.
I love you right where you are. I love you for who God made you to be. I love how you get so unhappy, that's one of the things you said, that when you take a big breath and you go, Truett, I love you. And then you go into the next thing. And so powerful, parents. That acceptance of our kids is so powerful.
Yeah. Okay. Last question. just on a really practical note, whether it's little kids or big kids, but just in your daily life, how do you incorporate Jesus externally? I know you can incorporate him in your thought life, and that's a huge battle, and that could be a whole nother podcast of how to choose to believe truth instead of lies in your mind and in your heart about your kids and your spouse and your family. But I'm talking about out loud with your words in your kids' lives. How do you incorporate Jesus? I'm not even talking about like morning devotionals and practicals like that. I'm talking about like they're sitting in their high chair and you have an option of to talk to them or to do the dishes. What do you do? Or things like that. How do you incorporate Jesus in those moments?
Yeah, so I think your first tool is your words. Anytime there's gratefulness, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus, for this food. Thank you, Jesus, for smashed peas. Thank you. So for that, I think that was one of the first things that I incorporated with my kids. Can you believe Jesus gave us such a beautiful day? Or there's a rainbow, or I love the rain. I love it when, the creator of the universe gives us rain. And so just one of those ways is just to use words for sure. And then to just go through those actions right now with, like Madeline's really good about playing worship music and singing along, and Truett sings along too. And it's hysterical. He sounds a little bit like a beached whale when he sings, but he is singing. And so you're doing that. I mean, worship music is so powerful in the car. If you want to change the atmosphere in your home, if it's stressful or frustrating, or if everybody woke up on the wrong side of the bed, put worship music on. It is magical to even watch the babies, because Bash is over here too, put the music on and they just look around and you can see the tracks being formed in their brain right now by the power of music.
Yeah.
And awesome. So music is important. And then, prayer. Putting their little hands together and pray. And let's pray. Let's talk to Jesus right now. Jesus, we love you so much. And we're so glad that you gave us this day, or whatever that is, just incorporating that. Or, this quiet time, which is almost impossible with small children, but it's okay if they watch you. If they're sitting on the floor playing and you've got your Bible open, read some scripture out loud. Read that over them, as you're journaling. Mommy's going to write in her journal, and I'm writing a love letter to Jesus right now. And someday you're going to do this. I tell the babies all the time, every time I change their diaper, I say, right now you put your poo-poos in your diaper, but soon you're going to put them in the potty, so that they've got those tracks laid in their brain. And so you can do that too with God. Yeah. Right now you're going to the nursery, but soon you're going to go to big church with mommy and daddy, or just, whatever that is.
Yeah, that's good.
This is a Bible, and you can't read it right now, but someday you're going to read it. This is a Bible. This is your book that's called a Bible, where God's words are in it, and just talking to them, showing them.
That's good. I remember, I actually forgot that I did this. I, at one point in time, babysat some kids, and it was when I was in College Station, and the kids were hard. They were not from the church. They didn't know God. The mom didn't know God. And the kids were hard. The parents didn't discipline the way I knew how to discipline. And I mean, they just, from the moment I picked them up from school until the moment their mom came, it was hard. And so I would preach the gospel to them in the car. They weren't allowed to talk. I would pick them up from school and I would say, okay, boys, I'm going to tell you a story. A long, long time ago, and I would do the whole from creation to the fall of man, the whole gospel, and they got used to it, to where we got in the car and they would say, can you tell us that story that you tell us every time, Miss Madeline? And then we would do it every single time. And the car aides were like, they would fight and they would grab each other and they would scream and they would cry, and then they'd get home and then they would fight and they would want to play their technology. But when we started doing that, it was about halfway through when I was babysitting them. It changed. It was so powerful. We would tell the story the whole 7-minute drive home. I would drag it on as long as possible to where the story took the whole ride home. And then we'd get home and that whole atmosphere was changed. We would come in, we would have a snack, we would talk about our day. And it was completely different than running in, putting our bags away, going straight to technology. And it was really powerful. I forgot that I had done that. So just even a simple practical of telling them the story of Jesus, can be, even though it feels lofty and even sometimes difficult to go there, when it's easier to just turn up the music or whatever, taking that time intentionally is really powerful.
Excellent. I 100% agree. Yes. And then that goes the same thing along the way. Every chance you get, you tell the stories, you include Jesus. He's not some far off God. He's sitting in the car with you. He's at the kitchen table with you. He's in bed with you as you go to sleep at night. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. That's all we got. Do you have any just last minute words of encouragement for these mamas? Maybe some things they need to hear today.
And so just remember that this too shall pass. that the season that you're in right now is not a forever season, and it goes so fast. And I remember when I was in a season with a bunch of little kids, I remember people who were in my season now saying, oh, it goes so fast, you're going to miss it. And I'm like, I'm not missing it today. And so I don't want to encourage you with that so much as just look at today. Don't look at tomorrow and the next day, because that gets overwhelming, but just look at enjoying today. Enjoy your small children, your babies today. Enjoy their squishy little, thighs and their little elbows, and oh my goodness, just all their little body pieces, and their little faces and the little words that they have to say that are just hysterical. Just enjoy that today, because it is a gift from the Lord. Small children are if you look at society, it's such a short period. It goes so fast, and then they're adults. They're big people now. Forever. Exactly. So they're little people for so short of a time. And so just appreciate that time. And when you do, then they'll feel it. They'll feel appreciated. They'll feel known. And then you just created a really sweet atmosphere.
That's awesome. Well, we talked a lot to the moms, but dads, if you're listening to this, it all applies to you too. If you dads are doing the dishes and you're mopping the floor and you're driving kids places and you're doing these same things, it will change your kid's life. Maybe even more so than the moms, because dads have such influence. Like, I just was thinking about this, and I was like, if Larry's listening to this, or when Larry listens to this and he starts applying some of these things, our family's going to notice it, because men are the ones who lead the family. And if they're leading out in these intentional areas, their kids will know it and feel it, and actually probably crave it even more so than they crave attention from their moms.
For sure.
So dads and moms, go be crazy cool. You guys are awesome. Have a good day.
crazycoolfamily.com.